Yo, what up? Original Lone Wolf coming at y'all with another update on this so-called fake-ass gun ban. Um, I'm going to start off like how I normally do. We're playing some of the things that Greg Bishop is going to put out. Shout out to you, Greg Bishop. Fair use. I am not here to slander Greg Bishop. That is not the purpose of why I use his videos. As I've said many times in the past, I use Greg Bishop videos because of the stuff that he's putting out, the things that he's recording, the people he's interviewing. I'm there to analyze what they're talking about. I'm there to listen to him. So it's not about Greg Bishop. Shout out to you, just for educational purposes only. So we're going to do a little bit of that, right? And then I want to point out some other stuff, too, to help you guys understand how these people are operating the way that they are, which is in pure commerce, right? And I'm also going to give my little take on the people that are out here that continue to move in said commerce. But what we got going on, right, is some more nonsense with this whole situation with this fake gun ban, so-called assault rifle ban nonsense. Okay. As y'all already know, there's a couple of weeks left before you have to register. In about 2 weeks, it'll be, 2.5, 3 weeks, it'll be January 1st. Okay, the fake new year. I'm going to play some of this stuff. I probably won't play all of it, but I'll play a great deal of it just to make my point. You know, I want you guys to hear a considerable amount of it. So when I do critique this and interject, you all will understand why I'm saying the things that I'm saying. We're going to play a little bit of that. And then, like I said, I'm going to get off into some other stuff to drive that nail in the coffin in regards to what it is that they're doing. Okay. So without further ado, we're going to get started with Greg Bishop. First off, well, let me say this. They denied the en banc review, right? The Federal Court of Appeals, the fake-ass three-panel judge, they decided to rule in favor of the state. As I've explained to you guys before, what they're doing is playing ping pong back and forth between Springfield and Chicago, right? And they're playing ping pong back and forth between the state court and the federal courts. What the federal courts has done with the Federal Court of Appeals, when they did this whole thing with the three-panel joint and they ruled in the state's favor, everybody understands that these people taking that money is a big deal. Those two Illinois Supreme Court judges that took the $1 million a piece, and the other video that I made where they took millions of more dollars when they was running for their to be elected for these judges seats. Not to mention how they passed the so-called legislation and everything like that. It's all unconstitutional, and everybody know it. And this is the reason for why you're seeing the games that you're seeing in the courts as well. So I just wanted to put that part out there. But let me go ahead and kick it off because I do want y'all to listen to some of this stuff, and then I'll get back into it.
Another busy day in the litigation against Illinois' gun and magazine ban. A little bit later on this afternoon, I'm going to head down to the Southern District of Illinois Federal Court, where Judge Stephen McGlynn is going to be hearing from federal firearms licensees of Illinois and several other plaintiffs trying to get to the January 1st deadline for people to register banned items with Illinois State Police by January 1st. The plaintiffs are looking for that to be ultimately delayed while all the confusion about the gun ban rules gets dealt with. Well, there's a lot of confusion with the gun ban rules, and you've got Illinois State Police who have filed second notice rules. What exactly are those rules? Well, to talk a little bit more about this from IFOR, we've got Josh Witkowski, who's shared some of the responses they've gotten from Illinois State Police on the questions they have. And, of course, the Illinois Federation of Outdoor Resources. Josh, you guys focus a lot on, for instance, the issue of how hunters are impacted by all of this. Good morning. Thanks for taking time with us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Greg. Yes, we do focus a lot on how this particular law is going to affect the outdoor sporting community. And the unfortunate reality is that it is going to affect a great deal of firearms owners who are completely unaware that it's going to affect them. There are a large number of shotguns still that are caught up in this mess. We've warned about it for a year now, give or take.
Okay, so now, number one, when they bring up rules, that should tell you right there. But because so many people are asleep, so many people are minors, by their definition. This is why people keep missing it. Okay, number two, he talking about the outdoor sporting community, right? This guy on the screen, okay? He's talking about the outdoor sporting community. The Second Amendment has nothing to do with that. He's talking about waterfowling and all this other shit. Excuse me, sir. The Second Amendment has nothing to do with that. And see, this is what's happening when people want to remain silent, okay? This is what happens. Nobody is standing up to interject and say, well, hey, hold on a second, homeboy. What does waterfowling got to do with the fact that they literally trying to turn you either surrender a substantial amount of your firearms, and when I mean surrender, you register them, because you literally surrendering them when you register them. You got to sign the affidavit saying that you're doing it voluntarily in the whole 9 yards. That means you surrendering them. What does that got to do with waterfowling, sir? Excuse me, hello, right? And all of this is we'll get into it down the road, but every time I stop and I say something, just pay attention to what I'm saying, because as God is my witness, I'm alluding to something to help you understand why we are where we are today. Like, I got all kind of stuff on my mind. I'm just writing down topics right now why this is playing. One of them being Constitution, right? And particularly schools, okay? Because these are all the things that I think about. Well, what do you mean, Lone Wolf? Now do you see why they not teaching the Constitution in school anymore? Now do you see it? Now do you see why it's not a big deal? When I was a child going to school, taking and passing the Constitution test was a big deal. Anyway.
And nobody is taking it seriously. Nobody wants to do what is necessary to educate firearms owners. We're doing what we can, but we are a very small nonprofit. Meanwhile, the Illinois State Police, which has the resources of the ability to contact every FOID card holder in the state, just puts things out on a website at a whim. They don't do their best either to educate the public. So we feel there's going to be a lot of...
Well, you know the reason for why they doing that, y'all, is because it's like with everything else. They bury it in their statutes and codes. They study talking about what's law, right? Here it is. In the Illinois compiled statutes, you got words like lawful that are within these statutes, right? So all I'm thinking about is contradiction. Well, what do you mean, Lone Wolf? According to the Constitutional Dictionary that we know of as Bouvier, the 1856 edition, the one dictionary that y'all ain't never seen me with, because it's a hard copy. I don't have it like on, most of the PDFs I've ever seen, you got to pay for them. You know what I'm saying? I haven't seen a free one, like how you could do with like Black Laws and different other ones. I got banking dictionaries. I got all kind of shit. But with the Bouvier, I've never seen one where you could download for free. But anyway, back to my point. Bouvier dictionary tell you that the definition of a statute is something that contradicts the common law. Well, we all know that the common law, the republic, the Constitution, all that shit is synonymous, right? Well, if you've been dealing with me, you know that. I've been screaming it to the top of my lungs for the longest. This is one of the reasons why I do screen shares, because I be liking to show y'all certain stuff so you could go read it for yourself, so you can at least see why I have the interpretation that I have. Now, whether or not if you come up with something that's a little bit different or whatever, no big deal. But that's the reason why I do the screen shares. So when you see things within the Illinois compiled statutes, and it's using the words lawful and within those different passages that you may be reading or whatever, that's just letting you know right there that it contradicts the common law. And we'll get into how that happens, because there's a reason for how that happens. And it's through their subsidiaries and all these other things. But anyway, continue.
Individuals turned into criminals on January 1 because of the way this law is being implemented and what the rules are in this law.
So we're looking at a news release that you sent out yesterday that indicates, some of the responses you got from Illinois State Police, and kind of spell that out for us. What are we looking at here?
So if folks remember, I testified back on November 2nd in Springfield at one of the public hearings regarding the implementation of these rules. And what was supposed to be a public hearing with answers turned into a public hearing of, hey, that's a great question, write it down and submit it. So we wrote it down, we submitted them, received a response back on November 21st. And the response is helpful in some parts, nonsensical in others. But this response is now going to become part of the rules that are being considered today at the JCAR hearing up in Chicago.
First and foremost, they passed the damn legislation on the 10th of January in the dead of the night. These so-called rules that they keep referring to weren't published until mid-September. It was already chaotic just because of what they did January 10th. You understand what I'm saying? It was already chaos. So when they published these rules for the first time and people had opportunity to start looking at them, they go onto the Illinois State Police's website, it got even more chaotic because now everybody has questions, people don't understand, or it's just flat out nonsense. Like, I'm not complying with this type nonsense. You know what I'm saying? So since that time, they've had those 3 meetings. Remember I told y'all how they had 3 different meetings throughout the entire state in regards to this, just 3. One of them basically was standing room only. You couldn't even get in the room. One of the other places that they did it at, they didn't have no microphones or no type of PA system, so the average people that was in the back of the joint couldn't hear. Remember I told you about that? Yeah. So now here it is, they're having a meeting about these rules to see if they should be amended, if they should be abolished, or if they should just be left in place as they are, and they just move forward. Now, mind you, they just denied the en banc review for the Federal Court of Appeal case, for the Naperville case, as well as the other case, because there was a couple of cases that was dealing with this. Now, the issue that I'm having is nobody is talking about just pure and simple, this is against the Constitution, this is against the Second Amendment. Nobody is arguing this is against Bruen. If Bruen just told you that you can't ban firearms that are in common use, then what are we doing? Now, the other question that needs to be posed is this. Why has it been a super duper increase in the assault weapons ban since the Bruen decision has been in place? Look at what's going on in Maryland. Look at what they're doing in California. Who else? It's somebody else that's on some crazy shit. When it comes down to these firearms, I think it's Maine, and who else? Somebody else that's going crazy. They going ape shit. We're trying to ban these motherfuckers. Now you got Pritzker going around trying to become the next president, right? But he's going around on a countrywide tour pushing federal legislation to have ARs and all this other stuff banned. How is that even possible if the Supreme Court just came out with the shit that they just came out with? We'll talk about that. But for the time being, y'all just ponder on that question.
Specifically related to shotguns, 2 of the big things we were asking, one of the big things was, how do you determine shotgun capacity? Greg, you and I have talked about this before. You know, is it determined by the maximum number of shells it can hold, or is it determined by chamber size? Now, this is a very simple firearms question that should have been readily answered. And instead, the answer did not come until the middle of the registration period where they're changing these rules. And that answer ends up being they're going to consider it by chamber size. This is going to be helpful to a lot of hunters out there, to a lot of people who have 5-round semi-automatic shotguns. But where it is not helpful is the next thing that's an issue out there, and that's the issue of magazine tube extensions. You can have a magazine tube extension on a firearm. That firearm is now considered a so-called assault weapon. If you take that magazine tube extension off, the tube extension is supposed to then be registered as a assault weapons attachment. The issue is you won't be able to register that after January 1.
See, here's the issue with this. Here's the real issue. The real issue is when you get down into what he's talking about now with parts, pieces of plastic, etc. Why ain't nobody saying that this is literally against the Constitution and specifically the Second Amendment? This is the part that I was telling you guys. I understand whether or not if you down in Arizona or Texas or Florida or wherever, I know y'all hearing about the AR-15 and the AK or whatever that, you know, y'all may hear snippets on the news or whatever. It's not just that. It's pieces of plastic too. It's different accessories, man. Another inanimate object that you can put on an inanimate object. You understand? Except that piece of that inanimate object that you putting on an inanimate object is a piece of plastic, man. It's a tubing. Do you understand? It's not just AR-15s. They own the same thing that the ATF was on with the pieces of plastic and the four stock and all that. They own the same thing. If you don't register it, your ass could turn into a felon for this. Didn't they just smack the ATF down in federal court? A couple of times when they came up trying to ban this and do that, didn't the federal courts tell them you can't do that? But this is the same stuff that they doing here. Like, make it make sense, y'all. Just help me out. How is this not against making you a criminal? Because they say you're a criminal. Just overnight, you a criminal because they said so. How is that not some Marxist shit? But anyway, continue.
So if you have a waterfowl gun, which you use an extension tube for when you're hunting geese, you take the tube off when you're hunting ducks, you're not going to be able to use that firearm for both purposes because of the way these rules are being implemented.
Josh, of course, we're kind of skimming through some of what you sent out here as well. And it shows stuff about like airsoft items. Talk a little bit about that, because I mean they did clarify, right? I mean, you got the first set of rules that were filed September. Okay, well, I'll let you get there in a moment. But the first set of rules were filed September 15th. This law passed months beforehand, right? January 10th, it was enacted. They wait until September 15th to drop the rules 2 weeks before the October 1st deadline. And now you've got second notice rules. They spell out something about airsoft, but you're saying that they don't make it clear enough?
No, so what they ended up doing, we specifically asked, there's a situation with both airsoft and paintball where you can utilize forward grips, vertical grips, angled grips, which are considered assault weapons attachments because they can be used on modern sporting rifles. Companies such as Magpul, great company out there, you can use their grips on both a modern sporting rifle and on a paintball or a airsoft gun because they use Picatinny, M-LOK, Key-Mod, all the modern styles of attachment points. And when we asked about this specifically, the response we got back was a nonsensical response.
And see, the next thing that they'll be doing to try to ban is scope mounts and rings and shit, which are interchangeable. You know what I'm saying? With like air rifles and rifles, like ARs and AKs and shit. That's going to be the next thing that they do, right? Now, why would you say that, Lone Wolf? Because the Illinois State Police got the right to update the list every year as they see fit. So, excuse me. Remember I told y'all there's over 170 some firearm and attachments that you got to register. It ain't just the AR-15. Remember I told y'all that? Well, whatever ain't on that list now, the very next year, they can add it to the list. Pretty soon you won't be able to throw a fucking rock without catching a felony. This is what they own, man. And nobody's talking about this part. Nobody's talking about, well, you know, wait a minute, man. I've been watching this for quite some time. Why is it that nobody's talking about the real issues? You got this guy on screen talking about some damn waterfowling and hunting. And it's like, well, wait a minute. The Second Amendment is not for that. Which is going back to what I was saying about how they don't want you to know the Constitution in school. They don't want you to know any of these things. They don't want you to know that the Constitution was never wrote for a person to have a right. And I'm saying in particularly Article 2 of the Bill of Rights. It was never wrote for somebody that had a right to hunt. And then not only that, it's not even addressing the part about to secure a free state. Nobody's even talking about that part. And we're going to get into that too. But anyway, I'm going to play a little bit more of this trash.
Regarding integral parts of so-called assault weapons, and then says that something specifically designed for airsoft would not be considered. We didn't ask about things specifically designed for airsoft or paintball. We asked about these grips that are compatible with both airsoft paintball firearms and modern sporting rifles.
And see, he bringing up the grips. I'm bringing up stuff like scope mounts because that's another thing that they could consider an attachment that can be used universally for air rifles as well as like these sporting rifles that he's talking about. You know what I'm saying? Depending on depending on what type of grips you got on like an AR, how long and how long your barrel is and how long the grips is that go across the barrel, depending on the length or whatever, you can install stuff from off of an air rifle. Like a high-powered break barrel air rifle or something, you can install like scope rings and mounts and shit onto that AR-15 and vice versa. This is the reason for why I'm saying he bringing up grips. I'm bringing up, the scope mounts and rings because it ain't on the list now, but it could be on the list next year. You see what I'm saying? This is and they want to talk about Fidel Castro. That's all I'm saying about that. But anyway, continue.
And they did not address that. And by every reading of what they have submitted for second rules, if you have a airsoft or a paintball gun, and you have a vertical grip, angled grip, anything that could be attached to a semi-automatic rifle, you're going to have to register that grip. And there's a great number of citizens that have no clue about this.
So I guess the thinking is they could possibly find themselves facing a Class 4 felony or a Class 3 felony based on the circumstances of how these things are found. What's next here? Of course, I mean, today, later on, it's going to be in federal court. We talked previous segment about what's going on in the Naperville case in the U.S. Supreme Court and the en banc review being denied by the Seventh Circuit. But this morning, you've got the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules that are set to meet. And what do you anticipate is going to happen there from what you're hearing on the ground?
Unfortunately,
Nothing.
I have a feeling that these second set of rules that are being introduced today with just 19 days left in the registration period will end up either being adopted by agreement or just by JCAR taking no action. JCAR is 100% bipartisan. They're split equally down the middle between Democratic and Republican parties. It takes a majority to be able to do anything, to change anything. I don't expect that majority to be there today, unfortunately, though I am hoping to be pleasantly surprised. We believe there's some additional information that may come out during the JCAR hearing that is going to be critical to Illinois firearms owners regarding this bill or regarding this law. So strongly encourage people to pay attention to that. And definitely watch that Southern Fifth Circuit. Judge McGlynn's going to take a look at this. I don't know how you can say it's easy for individuals to follow the law when you're changing the rules with 19 days left. And when you're creating...
It's easy for people to follow the rules when you changing the law. It's easy for people to follow the law when you changing the rules. I'm confused. Are they laws or are they rules? When I was growing up, they were separate. Right? But because people don't know anything, which we're going to be getting into that in a few minutes because I'm about to cut this off. But because people don't know anything, they don't know about statute codes and ordinances and all this other stuff and things that they call laws that are really statute codes and ordinances. They don't know any damn thing. So you got people out here to this day that's still saying, you broke the law because you don't have a driver's license, when it's not a law at all. And because you don't understand that it's a law, they get to interject certain things within their statutes and codes that make it bad for you, like being arrested. And then you take it a step further where, like, I think it's in Nevada or something, where they can force your blood from you on the side of the road to see whether or not if you intoxicated or something. They can literally force you. If I'm not mistaken, I think there was a state of Nevada where they can literally force you. It's like, man, I'll be a dead motherfucker before I let you just hold me down on the side of the road and stick a needle in my arm and take a tube of my blood. It's like, what in the hell is this world coming to? Oh, that's right, stupidness. Damn, forgot about that.
Situations that, let's go back to the waterfowl gun. Waterfowl hunting is $30 million $300 million economic impact to the state of Illinois annually. over 25 million in taxes, tax revenue associated with waterfowl hunting. And now, by the way, they've submitted these rules. Waterfowl hunters are either going to have to purchase a second firearm for specific use, or they're just not going to be able to use their firearms they're already purchased for.
Boom. You see it? He talking about money. You hear him? The Second Amendment ain't got nothing to do with money. You hear him? Do you hear him? This is why people, they don't like me, man. Look, when I tell you people don't like me, they don't like me. They don't like me. This is the reason why I can't sit down on somebody's panel. I couldn't sit down across from somebody else. There's no way in hell. It wouldn't happen. It's like, bro, you over here talking about money? We're talking about the Second Amendment. You talking about money. Can you combine the two? Can you fit that circle into a square? Can you know what I'm saying? I don't understand. Can you help me understand how that'll fit? I don't get it. What does that have to do with the Second Amendment? What does that have to do with them literally stripping people of their rights? How much money they gonna lose or stand to lose or tax revenue or whatever? What does that have to do with anything?
Intended use.
It's pretty wild where we're at right now, but obviously a lot of moving pieces, and we'll be tracking that all throughout the day today, as I'm sure you will as well. Josh Witowski, again with IFOR, greatly appreciate you taking time, and we'll definitely be connecting again soon, all right?
I appreciate it. Thank you, Greg. And if I can, just one last thing. It was said during debate the entire time that sporting arms were not going to be affected, that Illinois Department of Natural Resources was going to develop a list of so-called sporting arms used for hunting. And that did not happen. Basically, they created an appendix. That appendix exists, but it doesn't list out specific firearms. And if you're a hunter and you keep your firearm at home, you still have to register. And that is something that nobody anticipated, because that is not what was covered in debates.
And one thing that's it gets muddled in the mix of how laws are made and how bills get passed. Some people already saying in the chat live this morning that Illinois State Police isn't a legislative body. But Josh, you and I have watched how these things get worked through the system, and yeah, they pass.
According to American Jurisprudence, the different books that were put out, that were started and wrote by judges. Okay? And I need to read some of that shit to y'all, but I try not to be on there. I got my boy Jim Redwolf reading the books and shit. You know what I'm saying? But I want to at least put out what it is and where you can get it from. But even regardless of all of that, it tell you that the speed limits and stuff is there for them. All of these rules and regulations that, like with the state police or the so-called suburban police and all this other shit, the rules are for them, for the speed limits and all of that shit. Stop signs, all that is for them. Now, don't misunderstand me. It is a useful guide for the general public to keep them safe and to keep them from not having you know what I'm saying? But if I'm in a suburban intersection in the dead of night and there's nothing around at 3:30 in the morning, absolutely nothing, and that light is red, and you got a cop sitting off into a parking lot off in the distance that it's abandoned parking lot, everybody going home for the day, ain't nobody at this business. He see me go through that red light with no danger. He's not supposed to be pulling me over and talking about giving me tickets and all this other shit. You know why? Because signs and symbols and shit don't run people's life. It's no different than you having a fire sign or some sort of sign that say no exit. So you allow yourself to burn up in this fucking fire because it tell you don't open this door. There's a sign that say don't open this door. That's not the shit that run our life. We're not governed by that shit. You're supposed to govern yourself. Yes, you don't want to be weaving in and out of lanes at high rates of speed and it's a bunch of cars on the road and you damn near hitting people and scaring the shit out of people. No, you're not supposed to do that. You're supposed to act with sense. Yes, but all of the stuff that they try to put off onto us, regardless of what state you in, it doesn't apply to us. And again, I keep harping on the fact that this is the reason why they don't want you to know the Constitution. This is the reason why they don't want you to know the different editions of the American jurisprudence. This is the reason why they don't want you to know about any of these things, where they clearly tell you in their own stuff who it's for. When you go to the UCC, it tells you that you are not to register your car if it's not used for commercial purposes. The UCC tell you this. Illinois has a UCC, right along with every other state, has a uniform commercial code, just as well as the federal, who adopted it to begin with, who created the UCC to begin with. Every state has adopted it, even Louisiana in parts. Louisiana is special. Louisiana is the only state that I know of is they kind of a little different. Yeah, they adopted the UCC, but they want to be special. They got a little special shit in theirs. But outside of that, all other 49 states have adopted the Uniform Commercial Code. I don't care what state you are in. This is the reason for why y'all keep hearing me scream the UCC 11 when it come down to the whole thing about any so-called alleged debts, AKA liens. That's why y'all keep hearing me scream that. But anyway, we gonna keep it moving a little bit longer.
The law, and then all of a sudden the administrative agency is tasked with trying to make sense of that.
See, administrative agencies trying to make sense of it. Administrative.
Just so happens to be what that administrative rule process is. Greatly, again, appreciate you being with us, and we'll definitely talk again in the near future, all right?
The administrative rule process is the all capital letter name. This is the only way they can deal with you. This is the reason for why they wanted you to have the so-called firearm card to begin with. And we allowed these unconstitutional acts to continue. We allowed them to develop. Illinois has had a firearm card thing here since the 60s. They had to do that. If you know what was going on in the 60s, especially in Chicago, because the Chicago wasn't the same Chicago you got in 2023 back in the 60s. They wasn't the same, totally different Chicago. Totally different. It's like, yeah, we got to calm these niggas down. That's what that was about. Remember when Chicago had the handgun ban? Y'all remember that? You better not get caught in Chicago with a handgun. In the city limits of Chicago, you better not get caught with a fucking any kind. It could be a fucking 22 revolver. You better not get caught with no motherfucking handgun in Chicago. Y'all remember that? Wow. Anyway, continue.
All right. Thank you very much.
It is Bishop on Air. Thanks for hanging out as always. And we've got, of course, to continue the coverage of what's going to happen today, because it's not just the Joint Committee on Administrative Rules that are set to meet. You've got the Southern District of Illinois Federal Court that's going to be hearing the challenge of trying to delay the state's January 1st deadline, because if people don't have that delayed, then there's concern people are going to be turned into felons overnight come January 1st. When I chatted with Costas Morris, he's an attorney with Michelle and Associates. He shared kind of, the why this is happening on December 12th, the same day that you've got the JCAR meeting. It's kind of there's a weird what do you call it? Coincidence? I don't know, but either way.
Well, here's the goddamn coincidence, Mr. Bishop. December 12th. I hate to go here. I know some people, they down with it, some people not, but I do admit, to us it may be meaningless, but to the Masons it mean everything. How about a coincidence of it's 33 in numerology, Mr. Bishop? Can we have that conversation? Well, what do you mean, Original Lone Wolf? Well, in basic numerology, you just add numbers together to get to a single digit. The only numbers you can't do that with is 11. 11 is considered the master number. You cannot add 1 and 1 to get a single number. Okay? But that's basic numerology, and that's why I'm going to leave it. I'm going to leave it with just basic numerology. I'm not finna go off into all of the years of the fucking studying of that shit I've been doing. Because me, personally, I don't give two shits about it. I just understand that it mean everything to the Freemasons. So here's what your coincidence is, Mr. Bishop. December is the 12th month. When you add 1 and 2 together, you get 3. Today is the 12th day. When you add 1 and 2 together, you get 3. So what are you left with? 33 in numerology. Ain't that the Master Mason number? But anyway, continue.
It's going to be interesting with JCAR and then the Southern District of Illinois. Here's Costas. And where are you at? Let's get you on. I, for some reason, don't have audio coming from that channel. Just have to see what the holdup is. Here we go. All right, let's crank that up as well. No, that's why I didn't have that channel up. Live broadcast, people.
But it's not
live broadcast here. Here's Costas. Let's get the audio all lined up for you and fire.
And we don't know yet if JCAR is going to approve those. Last time the vote was 5-5. Now, do I expect that vote will hold? Probably, but it's not. It wouldn't be insane if one of those people flipped and said no, and then we'll be thrown into chaos. If JCAR rejects the proposed revisions, then we're stuck with the emergency rules, which have all the confusing problems that even ISP admits are confusing. That's why they're revising them. But even assuming it all goes smoothly and JCAR approves the new rules on December 12th, that leaves people just a couple of weeks to register during the holiday season. That's unprecedented, we think, in terms of, you can say that rules being published as sufficient notice, but typically people have months or years before things take effect.
But now is the perfect timing when you get your 33 in numerology. Now would be the perfect time. All right? I'm going to leave it at that, man, because I really don't want to hear no more of that shit. It makes my head hurt. Because I can really go on and on and on about it, and I don't want to do that. I'm trying to keep this video down to a certain amount of minutes. So now, I'm going to recover a few things into regards to how we got into the situation, because this is coming to a state near you. I don't care where you live. Nobody's safe from this shit. I don't care who you are. You think you cool in Texas now? We'll see. All that nonsense all there. We're going to see from the union and All right, we'll see. We'll see. You down in Florida and all these other places, you think you safe? We'll see. We'll see. It's coming to Wyoming, North Dakota, and all these other places where you may not have certain things going on. I think they're trying to do some shit down in Tennessee now with the assault weapons and this, that, and if I'm not mistaken. We'll see, because it's coming. So again, let me rehash a couple of things. As a matter of fact, here it is right here. So what we're looking at on screen, and I'm actually go back. Is this the first page? I don't think this is the first page. What you're looking at on screen right here is the District of Columbia Organic Act of 1871. Okay? This is what changed everything. This is what they used to mirror the so-called rightful Constitution, the real one. This is what they use. Okay? I'm not finna go into all the reading it and all the stuff. I'm not finna do all that. You can do it on your own. I'm just here to tell you what it is. And quite naturally, you can go to Google to find it. But it's the District of Columbia Organic Act of 1871. Or you can just call it the Organic Act of 1871. This is when they literally rewrote the Constitution. Okay? Literally. This is the reason for why you have to follow the timelines. You know what I'm saying? You have to follow those timelines of 1871. You have to follow it from there all the way coming forward. What was going on in 1871? What was going on in 1913? What was going on during the First World War? Because that's what they needed to make all of this into fruition. In order for the District of Columbia Act to even have any fruit or any meaning, they had to go to war. This is where you get your World War I from. Okay? Now, in 1871, wasn't the Civil War, whatever, the fake Civil War was supposed to end it, or whatever the case may be. So you have to think about this shit. Think about what was going on. You already got people out there, shout out to the Lost Confederacy being one of them, that already have acknowledged the fact that the Civil War was fake. It wasn't real. Red Wolf been talking about it for as long as I've known him. I've been knowing him shit almost 2 years now. And he been screaming it to the top of his lungs. It wasn't no fucking Civil War. The shit was bullshit. It wasn't like what they told you. They all told you this. Well, here it is. The Organic Act of 1871. Then you coming forward with this fucking bullshit with World War One. Then we get off into World War II. Well, before even World War II, you got the fucking United States filing for bankruptcy in 1933. Right? Then what happened? Less than 10 years later, or 10 years later, rather, what happened? We get into another world war. So you got to start paying that some attention. Start looking at those different timelines and those different details within those specific timelines. We all know it was bullshit. Here it is. You got all kind of people that have been screaming that the Holocaust in Germany and all that was fake. Tons of people have been putting this out. Okay? So we understand that. When they bring up the fact that when Red did the 3-part series, when the dude was speaking and he was telling you it wasn't that very many Jews in Germany and not one of them had one single hair touched on their head, not one of them. Well, then that would go back to what I have been screaming about, the fact that when your boy Hitler was Time Magazine's Man of the Year, the mark was on the cover. The Time Magazine Man of the Year. This was back in like 1941 or something. It's like, well, wait a minute. How did he go from that to just killing like 1 billion Jews? I don't know. How the fuck does that work? And now all of a sudden, the Americans got to go after him with such fire and intensity to take this guy out? And he was just on the cover of Time Magazine's Man of the Year? It's like, look, man, I ain't that damn intelligent, but I'm not like that stupid either. So this will go into that. This is how you know something else is finna kick off. Because in order for them to implement this banking stuff that's coming, the digital currency, something has to happen first. Something has to happen. This is the reason for why right now they're talking about the draft. They're talking about drafting women. Like for the first time in history now, they talking about putting women. Like, I don't know about y'all, but I'm not trying to be with no chick that got her ass blown off in the war. Like, you know, we're going to start a family and shit when she come back. Like, no pun intended, man. I'm not, you know what I'm saying? I'm just going to keep it a buck. Y'all may not like me. Y'all may hate me for saying that, but at least I'm being honest. At least when you come back with your shit blown off, you already know that I ain't going to be looking at you. Because I already said it. Don't let these motherfuckers send your daughters and shit into these militaries and shit, man. Straight up, don't. This is how you know that something is coming. They're going to pull off something. They're going to do something. And I believe they know that most people don't want to fight. They don't want to join the military. I believe they know that they'll catch slack from that. They'll catch resistance from it. I really believe that. This is the reason for why the fight will be here. You won't have a choice but to fight with all of these people that they letting come here. I told y'all it's not just in the city of Chicago. It's out here in the burbs where I am. Now, mind you, I get the fact that I'm not that far from the city. I get that. I understand that part. You know, I'm pretty much on the outskirts, but it still don't change the fact that they out here. They everywhere. I'm just saying. So we have to be aware of this. You got people that are pointing this out, ex-veterans. See, this is one of the things that ex-veterans are good for. They got a nose on them. They can sniff other military motherfuckers. They can smell them. Even if they was in the military in some other country or whatever. See, that's why I love the vets. Especially the real niggas. The real ex-vets and shit, pale skin or not. That's why I love them. Because those motherfuckers are my bloodhounds. They teach me so much. You know what I'm saying? And they know. They know, and it's like, why would they not know? I believe them. You know what I'm saying? I believe them. One recognizes another. I believe them. Why would they not know? They can smell their ass from a mile away. So just be mindful of that. Just be mindful of that. This is how you know something is coming. So now I'm gonna end the whole thing with the gun ban by saying this. Everything they're doing is administrative. This is the reason why they're throwing different words in the same sentence, in the same conversation that don't make any sense. It's designed to contradict the other and to draw confusion. So where people just say, okay, and they just submit. But with the affidavit they want you to fill out, that alone tell you that this is corrupt. This is fraud. Again, how in the hell are you going to tell me that I'm signing this voluntarily and under penalty of perjury, talking about this affidavit that you got to fill out when you register these so-called firearms or attachments. You signing it that you voluntarily did this, and you signing it under penalty of perjury. Now you think about this, you done lied already because you ain't doing it voluntarily. Do you see these sick people? These are some sick ass people. Do you know if you sign that under penalty of perjury, you already perjured yourself? Do you realize that? You've already perjured yourself. You can't expect for me to sign something under penalty of perjury, and within what I'm signing, it's saying that I'm doing this voluntarily. I'm not doing it voluntarily. So that means if I sign it, I'm perjuring myself. The reason why a person is filling it out is because they saying they're going to put you in prison. So how could you have some sick... Well, we know the reason. The reason for why they got that is so you can't come after them. They can't be held liable. None of these things are being talked about that I'm seeing. None of these things are being talked about. Even when you read the actual arguments and the different oral arguments and stuff that they got on paper, that they, in the affidavits and different things that they've submitted into the court, Greg Bishop has read a lot of them. Even within what he's reading, they're not talking about this. They're not talking about this one simple thing. How is this not corrupt? How is that not fraud? It's because of the all capital letter name. Okay? This is the reason why they're talking about administrative, they're talking about rules and all this other nonsense, because it's all corporate nonsense. Oh my God. Okay, so understand that what it is that they're doing is all alluding to these different processes that people are talking about. The so-called sovereign citizen thing, the so-called discharging debt and all of this nonsense is all alluding to that. What I want you guys to understand, right? Because I'm still studying this stuff. I done came up on a lot of stuff, information in regards to the whole discharging debt, these credit reporting agencies. And I was looking at my credit reports last night, all three of them, in regards to some other information that I just came up on that we should be aware of when it comes down to these credit reports. And I'm learning stuff every day, man. Like, there's some times where I have a break where, I just got to push back from the table, because it's irritating. But I'm learning. Anytime I'm like, man, let me dive into this. I'm going to look at this today. Let me pick back up on from where I left off, blah, 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 right? I'm learning like so much. And what I can express to you guys is this. One of the reasons for why it may work for a handful and not for others is because it's fraud. Okay, you have to understand that. And I'm talking to people that's willing to pay people a lot of money. People that's willing to do a lot of these different processes. Because a lot of this stuff that they're talking about, I don't even do. I ain't got nothing to do with that. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to have anything to do with that. Now, I understand that the pen and the paper is mightier than the sword. I do understand that part. So I know how to put the pen to the paper. I know how to put the ink on the paper. That I do know how to do. But as far as what a lot of people are trying to teach in regards to these different things, we weren't born with papers attached to us. Like, think about it like this here. They say a social security number is unconstitutional, right? Because nobody was born with a number, right? Well, the same thing go with papers. That child wasn't born with no goddamn birth certificate and social security card and all these different things. These things were attached to him at birth without his or her knowing of this, okay? And then granted, I'm not going to deny the fact that there are things that could be done for that person by the time they get 18. There are things they could do. Like, for example, if you're 18 years old and don't have a driver's license, don't ever get one. You know what I'm saying? Don't ever use the social security card. Don't ever use it. Yeah, your mama got it for you, but at 18 now you have the right to decide to use it or not use it. If you don't have access to the social security card and you 18, don't go apply for one because that's you contracting when you do it. So I do understand that there are certain things like that you can do. But the fraud part in that is that nobody knows. They don't teach you this. And they'll even go as far as to say they're not required to teach you this, but yet it's their stuff. How is that not fraud, man? How is it that you can sit up here and make it difficult for a person who don't have a Social Security card? You make it difficult by telling them to go get one and all this other stuff, pulling out laws and different statutes and codes that they should already know that says that they don't have to have one and all this other stuff, but yet you make it hard for them anyway. You see what I'm saying? How is it that you have to put up with all of that? Why do they have to put you through all of that? Because it's fraud. We know one of the things that bounds you to their rules when you have children is going to have a baby in a hospital. We already know that. This is the reason for why they can literally call Child Protective Services, the security guards, and everybody else. Because you contracted to give birth in their facility, and part of the requirements for you to be able to do that is you got to abide by their rules. Hence, this is the reason for why you can't walk out of there without getting that baby a birth certificate. But they don't tell you this. How is this not fraud, man? This is what I say to the people that are on YouTube. This is what I say to even my own subscribers. You know why I'm so underrated and I ain't got no following? Because there ain't no money in what I teach. There ain't no money in what I preach. There ain't no money in it. People don't see anything in it for them. See, when you're selling people dreams of these fucking paper packets and all these different things and shit, and they don't know no better. And these are the type of people that don't go and do their own research and let that shit absorb in every fiber of their being. They don't do any of that. They chasing a dream. They chasing a bag. They chasing that, well, it take money to make money, so fuck it. I'm going to go ahead and pay this woo-wop do-do-do-do-do-do and go ahead and do what it is that they say do. And then you have a situation where it worked for some, but it don't work for the vast amount of people. That's because it wasn't designed to work for you at all. This is the whole fucking thing that I try to get people to understand. The number one reason for why you know that this shit is not made for you is because they make the information very difficult to find. And when you do find it, it's wrote in such a way to where you got to go off into a whole nother paradigm just to understand what they're saying. And it's wrote and constructed that way on purpose. And if you don't know anything about these types of things, your life is drastically affected. This is the problem with that. This is what people are not addressing. This is the reason for why I don't charge people money. But see, also, too, y'all know at the same time, I'm not finna do anything for your ass either. I'm not finna be writing up your letters and affidavit. I ain't finna do that. You're gonna do that shit on your own. Can you read and write? Yeah, oh yeah, motherfucker, I graduated high school and everything. Okay, well then write your own shit. Write it yourself. I don't mean to be mean, but that's the trade-off to me not charging you for the information. That's the trade-off. You got to do it for your fucking self. And you got to decide whether or not if it's right for you. It's just that simple. That's the trade-off. Because at the end of the day, what these people are doing is fraud, man. This is the shit that I can't get people to understand. People say they get it, right? Or you'll watch some of these people YouTube videos and they'll touch on it. They'll touch on the fact, well, this is fraud or this is how they're getting away with fraud, blah, blah, blah. But then they'll go right back to showing you how to navigate through this system. And it's like, well, wait a minute. If the shit is fraud and you showing me how to navigate through it, ain't in a lot of aspects I'm committing fraud too? I understand the whole thing, right, that they supposed to discharge the debt. The United States debt is supposed to be discharged upon the back of the United States. Public debt, excuse me, I apologize. The public debt is supposed to be discharged upon the United States. Well, along with, what is the public debt? When you buy a house, you know what I'm saying? When you buy a car and shit, when you buy like a refrigerator, you know what I'm saying? When you go and you know what I'm saying, put a down payment on some sort of bedroom set for your newborn baby or something, and you making monthly payments and all this other stuff. Credit card bills, grocery bills, really anything you could that a motherfucker will buy for consumable use, not for business purposes, but for consumer use. You know what I'm saying? The bedroom set that you bought for the baby bedroom set, that's for your newborn baby. That means you're a consumer. You bought that because you need to have something for your baby to sleep in. You know what I'm saying? That make you a consumer. So anything that people buy that is for consumer use is supposed to be discharged upon the back of the United States. That means your car, your house, everything, right? Well, how did all of that come into play? Well, they had to provide you with a remedy when they did two things. Number one, they took away gold and standard as the standard of money. Gold and silver, they took it away. Then the other thing was they filed bankruptcy and they pledged not only the people that was alive at the time when they pledged the bank, that when they went into bankruptcy, not only did they pledge them people, but everybody else that was born after that by way of the birth certificate transferred into a security that were born after that. So this is how you get the remedy about them discharging the public debt on the back of the United States. That's how you get to that part, right? But they don't honor it. They don't honor your end. Now, they do what they got to do on their side. You know what I'm saying? They do what they got to do on their side. But on your side, they don't honor it. And this is what everybody is chasing, right? But it's like, well, wait a minute. Two things that I brought up that's very important, that's very significant. Number one, they filed for bankruptcy and pledged you as the surety, as the fucking collateral. Not only the people that were born at the time when they went into bankruptcy, but everybody that was born after that by way of the birth certificate. And they didn't tell anybody. Like that, not only is that's a crime. You rewrote the Constitution to mirror the real Constitution. I just showed y'all that. And you didn't tell anybody, man. That's a crime. They didn't put that shit out there on the main scale level. And like I said, you may find some case law or some old shit like that that'll say some stupid shit like they weren't required to tell the public or some old stupid shit. You probably could find some case law like that where they protecting themselves. Then you set up here and you took gold and silver away as the medium exchange of money. You did all of these fucking things before you put this remedy into place, which is the reason why you had to put the remedy into place, which is where you get your uniform commercial codes from. That's where it all come from. It come from them having to give the people a remedy for this illegal shit that they doing. It even tell you that within the United States Code that you have to provide remedy. If something unjust has happened to the people and they come forward about it with a claim and they're actually able to prove that claim, you have to provide remedy. This is where you get your fucking uniform commercial codes from. This is what I'm saying to all of the people who's supposed to know this and know that. My argument is simple. We just keep going down that paradigm of fraud. It's simple. When the fucking fraud needs to be addressed. And the CFPB can't do it. The Federal Trade Commission, all these motherfuckers, they can't do it. It has to be regular fucking people. And as I just said a minute ago, ain't no money in what I preach. That's why my channel ain't no bigger than what it is. It's just that simple. Don't nobody want to hear what I'm talking about. You know why? Because ain't nobody going to do that. The average motherfucker ain't going to get off their ass and do the shit for themselves, which is one of the defenses that the people use when they charge people. That's one of the defenses that they use. Well, a lot of them, they just ask questions that I already put out in the video. I already answered the shit in the video, but here it is, they keep emailing me. I ain't talked to him in 6 or 7 months after, I gave him some information and I spent off on him 6 or 7 months later. He's still in the same boat that he was already in. He ain't used none of the information that I gave him or nothing. He ain't moved. He's still stuck there. This is the defense that they use for why they charge people. And that shit is fine because like I told y'all before, my biggest thing is this. Just give the people what they want. You know what I'm saying? If you give them what they paid for, then I'm cool with that. But the point I'm trying to make too about that whole thing is this. How do this shit ever end, man, if we don't address it? Right? Because I do in a way understand and don't care. Not only do I get it, but I don't give a shit that people charge other people or that people may pay for what they charging people for. Keep that in mind. I don't give a fuck It ain't me that's doing it, so what the fuck can I say? My main thing is this. I've talked about the whole thing about giving the people what they pay for. But the other part, like how I said, is how do we overcome this shit, man? How if we don't address the fraud? The fraud needs to be addressed. How they literally took this system and made everybody a slave. And that's what it was designed to do. It was designed to do it from day fucking one. So I hope y'all understand that, man. I try to keep this at an hour or less, man. I'm going to get up out of here. My argument about that is that this is how they're able to ban firearms, because they take people out of a sovereign state, out of their sentient being state. I like that better. Replace sovereign citizen with a sentient being, and you got my vote. They take people out of their sentient being state and they place them in a corporate fictional state. And people don't know that that's what the damn governor of Illinois is doing to take people firearms. And what's sad about it, here's the part that's so bogus about it, is that the federal judges know it, the state court judges know it, everybody know it. They all know. But yet people keep trying to teach these people these different remedies where only 0.5% of the people, 0.5% see anything at all. Make that make sense, man, because it don't. It really don't. If you put your ego to the side and you really think about what it is that I'm saying in regards to all of these processes that we trying to teach people and all this other stuff, it really don't add up to a hill of beans, man. It really don't. And I'm humbly saying it. And I've talked to people. I've showed people how to do things. People have came back to me and said the stuff I showed them worked. And I'm still saying what I'm saying. It's the original Lone Wolf, man. I'm out, man. Hopefully y'all enjoyed this video, man. But I'm gone. Peace out.